Oprah Winfrey considers herself to be a deeply spiritual person. She's made a whole career out of it, supporting people like Deepak Chopra with his quantum mysticism, which seems to assume that since quantum physics is very difficult to understand and very weird indeed, it must be tantamount to magic. She's also supported a lot more harmful things like A Course in Miracles, which has resulted in any number of cults being started. It's a very dangerous book, at least as far as books can be dangerous. But I digress. Her belief in spirituality at any cost, as long as it's vaguely positive, must surely explain why she seems to not like atheists very much. After all, if you believe spirituality is the cornerstone to a happy and healthy life, and then you meet people who have none of that and they're still happy and healthy, you got a big problem on your hands. So this video is called Spiritual Oprah Talks to a Group of Danish Women About God. This video is actually very interesting as a whole. The first part of it talks about Danish social conditions, and I would encourage you to watch it because that's a very interesting discussion, and her attitude is very different between these two portions of the clip. In the part talking about the Danish social conditions, she's very nice, very friendly, very comfortable. But you'll see how that changes the moment religion is brought up and she finds out people disagree with her.
Yeah. Human values.
Yeah, yes. Human values. Don't you think, Oprah, it's interesting that we are considered one of the happiest people in the world, but we're also one of the least religious people in the world?
Yeah,
What
I find that very
that?
interesting. I'm actually puzzled by that.
Yeah, I would think so.
I'm really confused by it. So
She is really confused by it. That is a look of sheer confusion, puzzlement, befuddlement. She is not happy about this information she has just received, and you can see it written all over her face.
you don't believe in a higher being?
I don't.
Most people don't.
No.
I believe in humanity.
You believe in humanity, yeah. But you don't believe in God.
She sounds and looks very concerned. She is very concerned. She has just found out these people she was enjoying very greatly don't believe the same thing she believes. Probably not a single one of them in terms of spirituality or religion. It's very disquieting for her, as you can see.
No.
I mean, I think the churches are empty, but
The churches are empty.
Well, that's one thing we have in common. The churches in America seem to have emptied out pretty well, too. It's mainly elderly people left over.
Maybe there is something bigger.
Okay. Maybe you believe and you don't know you believe.
I know I believe.
This is another common theme in Oprah interacting with atheists. She tends to assume that because atheists are friendly and nice and don't want to just break her heart, that we secretly believe. We're really religious. We just don't know it. Maybe we do believe in God. We're just not aware of it. But really, it's a nonsense argument. These people are just trying to be nice to her. They could see how uncomfortable she suddenly became and are trying to make her less comfortable. And of course, she responds by making them uncomfortable. Good job, Oprah.
But it's the way you use it.
Yes.
Maybe it's not religion for you. Maybe it's more spiritual. Yeah.
See, this is one thing about Oprah that really bothers me in these interactions, where if a person will not immediately concede that they're actually secretly religious, well, they must be spiritual. They must have some spiritual connection to something greater. But no, not really. There are plenty of spiritual people out there, even some spiritual, not religious people. Oprah can still respect those people because they believe in all of this, you know, this I can control the universe with my mind stuff. I have a connection to the divine stuff. But really, for some of us, there just is no divine to interact with in the first place. She doesn't seem to understand this. I think she doesn't want to understand this. Maybe she gets it on some level, and it scares her, as it scares many religious people. It's understandable to be a little bit afraid when you find out that people disagree with everything you believe in. That's only normal. That's only human. But it's also very unfair to these women how she acts to them.
So that was an interesting conversation that we could have sat there all day talking about, because one of the women at the table said she really was very religious and disagreed with all of you.
So she likes to pick out this one woman at the table here that's very religious. And what, there are like 6 women at the table. So this one woman who's very religious, and she just like points out, well, you know, there was still one there. Like, what's the relevance of that, Oprah? What exactly are you trying to say by that? That, yeah, the majority of them were non-religious and even atheist, but there was the one. That means that matters. One person still needed religion, so that means religion is great. I don't know what the argument she's trying to make is, But I don't think she knew either. She just wanted to find some solace somehow there from the information that one of them believes like she believes. So let's move on to the next clip. Towards the end of her active career on TV, Oprah started doing Super Soul Sundays, or maybe she did them before and brought them back. I don't know. Either way, she did them. This one is Soul to Soul with Diana Nyad. I have not seen this clip. It was sent to me by a friend, but I was told it's very interesting. So let's watch it and see what happens. Diana Nyad, by the way, is an atheist, which we are about to find out again.
You're not a God person, that you're a person who's deeply in awe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a God person, and do I argue against my friends who are, you know, religious, Buddhists, Jews, Christians?
Do you consider yourself
No,
atheist?
I'm an atheist, and
But you're in the awe.
yeah.
I love how Oprah can't understand this idea that atheists can feel everything she feels, but not connect that to God or religion or spirituality in any way.
Yeah, but you know, I don't understand why anybody would find, you know, a contradiction in that. I can stand at the.
If you couldn't tell from the look on Oprah's face, she very clearly finds contradiction in that. You can't think things are pretty, beautiful, or meaningful if you don't have God.
At the beach's edge with the most devout Christian, Jew, Buddhist, go on down the line, and weep with the beauty of this universe and be moved by all of humanity. All the billions of people who have lived before us, who have loved and hurt and suffered. So to me, my definition of God.
Let's be clear about one thing here. She's essentially just saying that the universe is a beautiful place and it's just amazing. And it is. It's when I think about the universe, its incredible depths, how far out it goes, all the life that could be out there, all the life that's down here, all the lives that have ever been or ever will be. It's overwhelming. It does fill you with a sense of awe. It does fill you with a sense of just, well, I hate to overuse this word, but what else can you call it? Beauty. It's just, it's just a really awesome thought all around. And awesome, I mean, in the actual sense of being in awe. I don't see what's so hard to understand about that, but clearly Oprah has problems with it.
God is humanity and is the love of humanity. And as we return to, you
Well,
know.
I don't call you an atheist then. I think.
Okay, so this woman, Diana Nyad, has actually called herself an atheist, but she has also said something sort of pantheistic, which is the idea that collectively all of this amazing stuff together makes up what other people might call God. Now, she's obviously being, I guess you could say, metaphorical, figurative, maybe poetic in some way. She's espousing sort of a pantheistic view of the universe, that together all of this stuff that's all connected, that it's all working together in patterns and in a flow, according to the laws of nature and the laws of the universe, that together it all makes what people conceptualize as God. This is very different than the kind of God that Oprah believes in, which is a supernatural deity who created the universe, far removed from the universe, a personal God that every person can connect to. Now, according to Oprah, just believing in the idea that everything works as it should, as it's supposed to, all together as one, well, that means you can't be an atheist, even though Diana has already called herself an atheist. It's clear she's being philosophical, poetic. She's not trying to be literal about the issue of God when she describes the universe and its workings. But Oprah comes from a very hardcore spiritualist background, so she just has no context to understand that answer, which is fine. You don't have to understand every answer, but to openly just say, well, then I don't think you're an atheist, that's kind of rude considering somebody just called themselves an atheist.
I think if you believe in the awe and the wonder and in the mystery, that is what God is.
Okay.
That is what God is.
Well,
God
I guess,
is not
you
the
know,
bearded guy in the sky.
It's not bearded, but I guess there is an inference with God that there is a presence, there is either a creator or an overseer. I don't criticize anybody because you know what? The definition of life is we will never know. Mm-hmm. We will never know. You know what?
And she's completely right. Like, she's just completely right about this. And yet, Oprah insists that, well, she must just be misunderstanding herself and how she really feels, which is very unfair. It's wrong. Let's be honest. It's wrong.
That last breath.
Yeah.
And maybe it's an oh wow one for you,
you know,
as it
I
was
could
for
be
Steve
like,
Jobs.
whoa, I should have been praying all these years. I'm going the wrong way.
Something about this just really bothers me because when religious people respond to atheists and atheist arguments about the universe and how it works, life, death, and every sort of thing, they tend to just say, well, you'll find out one day. And, you know, maybe we won't. Maybe we just die like we expect to. Maybe none of us find out because we just disappear back into the void from whence we came. Ever think about that? No, I doubt Oprah has, but she wants everybody to think about the possibility that they could go to hell.
But for now, I don't.
She is so uncomfortable. Like, she can't even hide it. Like, Oprah, let's be honest, you know, I don't know how I feel about Oprah on a personal level. I'm sure she's a fine person, just on a personal level, but she is a little bit odd, and she acts a little bit odd. So at moments like this, it's hard to say whether she's being odd because her guest is an atheist or whether that's just how she is. And it's fine to be odd. I'm a little bit weird, a lot weird. Sometimes you are. It's just a thing you are, and you can't really help that. But I do find it notable how much more uncomfortable she seems in these clips than other clips I've seen of her, because I did check out a few clips of her just talking to people who agree with her. And she does tend to have this like glazed over happy look that religious people get when they're talking to each other that seems to be lacking in this clip because she knows she's talking to someone she disagrees with. So I think it does ratchet up the weirdness just a little bit, and that's fine in itself. You don't have to be normal in every situation. It's obviously a very new thing for her. She doesn't talk to many atheists, it seems like, but something about the way she behaves here just really turns me off.
Criticize anybody. People tell me they see ghosts. They see ghosts. People tell me that they remember past lives back to the Middle Ages. They remember them. People see God and feel God, and that's their faith, and I have nothing to say about it. Just for me, I'm an atheist who's in awe.
And that's like totally fair. That's totally fine. Like, me personally, I'm a hardcore skeptic, so I'm all about questioning these things. But I don't really want to interfere with people believing these things. If you want to believe in God, that's fine. If you want to believe that Jesus rose from the dead to save your soul, that's fine with me. You want to spend every Sunday in church? Great, go for it. You want to pray every night, pray before every meal? Fine. You believe in ghosts? Yeah, sure, whatever. It doesn't bother me none. Bigfoot? I don't care. Whatever floats your boat, you know? But yet, the respect doesn't seem to go both ways. There always seems to be a target on our backs, as she seems to be pointing out here in a very nice way. Because she seems like a very nice person. She probably doesn't want to offend a person whose show she is currently on, hosting her so graciously. But she has a great point.
An atheist in awe. So, do you consider yourself
An atheist in awe. It's just so hard to fathom, isn't it, Oprah? You just can't imagine an atheist in awe.
a spiritual person, even as an atheist?
And there comes the spirituality question. She always asks this question, and I think it's a lot easier to answer yes to this question because what is spirituality? It has a different answer to every person, much as the question of religious does. But spirituality can mean a whole lot of things. You can view spirituality in either mystical terms like Deepak Chopra and his quantum woo, or you can view it in very literalistic but ultimately awe-stricken terms like just looking up at the stars at night and feeling connected to them because you yourself are made of star stuff, as Carl Sagan so elegantly said. So the question for me is, she's obviously intending to get closer to her guest by feeling like they have something shared in this spirituality. But if Diana here has a spirituality to her, it's very different than Oprah's kind of spirituality because it's a very materialistic spirituality. Oprah's spirituality is very heavy on the spiritual part, the mystical part of the experience. Diana, being an atheist, is going to be answering in a very materialistic way. Now, she'll probably say, yeah, sure, yeah, sure, why not, or something like that. But let's be clear that if she does, they'll be talking about two very different things, okay?
I do. I don't think there's any contradiction in those terms. I think you can be an atheist who doesn't believe in an overarching being who created all of this and sees over it. But there's spirituality because we human beings and we animals, and maybe even we plants, but certainly the ocean and the moon and the stars, we all live with something that is cherished, and we feel the treasure of it. And
I believe that and feel that so deeply. It's why every time I enter my yard or leave, I say, hello, trees.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, the older I am, I walk around every day with, flowers and buildings that people created. And, but certainly beings, just every pair of eyes I look into, I see the souls.
Okay, and how do you define that, the soul?
A soul.
So now we are getting into like very spiritual territory where it's about to move from the materialistic to the actually spiritual. Soul, the idea of a soul is a spiritual construct. There's no two ways about it. Souls are a very mystical thing. In literal terms, I don't think anything has souls. I don't think souls are a real thing. But I think the word soul is very useful to describe the fundamental essence of a person, in the sense that if there is a person or a life form, there's something there. It's not something that reaches beyond this universe. It's not something like supernatural. It's something natural. It's consciousness. It's all of these chemical bonds coming together to make this creature what it is. And again, I think if Diana describes souls, it's going to be very similar to that. But people like Oprah, they really want to direct this conversation where they want it to be. She wants to think that despite being an atheist or identifying as one, this woman is not as much of an atheist as she thinks she is, which is very unfair. But let's continue, see if it goes in the direction I think it's going to go in.
Soul is your spirit. It's your love of humanity. It's your belief that there's more than you. There are people before us that you could weep to look at the discovery of an ancient city and realize that those people lived and they loved and they danced and they ate and they suffered and they lived just as we are. So there have been so many 40 and 60 and 80-year lives, billions of them, and we all have souls, and I feel their collective souls.
Wow.
I don't know what that really means per se. I don't think she's talking about souls in the same way you'd talk about like ghosts, for example. But I understand the feeling. Like, I went to the 9/11 memorial recently with my niece. She was in New York City and I was living there at the time. And when we went there, even though these events happened 20 years ago, they're history now. They're real history that we all lived through. I mean, my niece didn't. She was too young. She wasn't even born yet, actually. That is pretty young. But while we were there, I just looked over the ruins and had this feeling of connectedness with it all, because I was alive. I was very much aware of what was happening the day it happened. I was watching it unfold live on television at school where my mom was my teacher. So I remember very clearly what that day was like. It was very heavy. And at that memorial on that day, the first time I'd ever been there, I felt it. I felt the immense weight, the immense gravity of it all. But I don't think that was the supernatural reaching out to me. I think that was just, I carry the memory of that event. We all carry the memory of that event and others like it. It was a very unfortunate moment for all of us alive at that time, and it really hurt, and it still hurts. It hurts even more when you're as familiar with that city as I am now. I can't imagine how much worse it would feel if I had lived there then. So I do understand the feeling, but there's nothing supernatural about it for me, and she would probably agree. It's not that you're literally feeling these supernatural entities, but rather what it all meant. What it meant to be alive, what it meant to be a person, to have dreams, hopes, goals, a future, and in many cases have that taken away all too soon. There is gravity to it. I understand it. I understand how she must feel. And I don't think Oprah does. I don't think she understands it in the same way we understand it. I think if she goes to that memorial, she's going to feel something different. For her, it's going to be more literal, like, she may actually feel something supernatural there. I would think it likely even. And that's fine. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying that's a problem. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel. But I do think it's kind of disrespectful to take what we feel and invalidate it just out of disagreement, just because we're different. I, for one, would not invalidate what Oprah feels about, let's say, the 9/11 memorial, even if she feels very differently about it than I do, like the supernaturalism. I'm not going to do that. I'll just let her feel that. That's her feelings. That's her own personal worldview, and that's fine. I'm not going to interfere with that. And I would just like the same respect sent the other way, but let's continue. That's enough ranting.
Yeah.
What do you think happens when we die?
I think that the soul lives on because we have created so much energy, and when we display courage and hope, it lives on. But I do believe the body goes back to ash, and it is nevermore.
Okay, so that was a very wide-ranging interview on the subject of spirituality. And right there at the end, she did say something that does sound less materialistic. So maybe she's not a complete materialist. Maybe she does have a spiritual element. But I also feel like in situations like this, where you're under pressure to perform, you may say things you don't fully believe, which is fine. It's just pressure. It happens sometimes. And Oprah is a lot of pressure. Either way, I don't really see a problem with it. With what she said, I don't feel like we have this immaterial soul that lives on after our demise, but I do feel like when we go, we are carried by our loved ones in some sense. We are the memories of us, the impacts we had on other people. Those things are quite obviously carried on. I was talking to a friend about this recently. I had a friend who, sadly, I don't know how to say this for YouTube, but I guess he decided that life wasn't worth living anymore. And this was a long time. This is 9 years ago. He was very young. He was 20 years old. And I think about him fairly frequently because of the arc of his life, where when he was in high school, he was very hateful and bigoted and all of these things. And then afterwards, he changed and became a much better person and seemed to become just full of love. He was so bothered by how much hate was in the world. Just a few years earlier, he had been a hateful person, but I think it was the hurt that he felt, the sadness, and not knowing how to channel that. But going out, meeting other people who live very different lives and experience very different things, he made a complete turnaround. And that, I think, made a big impact on me, because when I think about him, I don't think about how bad he used to be as an angsty teenager. I think about the person he was when he decided to no longer be with us. And that person was very different. He was very loving. He was very upset about all the bad things happening in the world. He couldn't take it anymore. So he made a step that was very unfortunate, and he's been gone a long time, and I miss him sometimes. He was 20 years old when he died, just a few years younger than me. And I do carry him still with me to this day. He is there in my memories, and he made an impact on me. I probably wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't known him. And yeah, so we do leave something of ourselves behind in the people we impact. And that, for me, is very different than what Diana was saying. So I disagree with her there if she meant it. But that's fine. You don't have to agree on everything with everyone. And yeah, so I have another Oprah clip that I would like to show, but this video is too long, so I'm going to be doing another video about that specific clip. So until we meet again, enjoy life. I mean, you never know.